If you travel to the extreme northern border of Vietnam, high up in the clouds where the earth touches the sky, you will witness one of the greatest feats of human engineering on the planet. Imagine standing on the very edge of a terrifying steep cliff. You look down into a massive, deep valley. The valley is completely surrounded by towering, jagged gray limestone mountains. Heavy, thick white fog rolls violently over the sharp peaks, blocking out the bright yellow sun. But as the white fog slowly clears, a breathtaking, impossible landscape is revealed. The sides of these massive vertical mountains are not wild and untamed. They have been completely, perfectly carved. You see thousands upon thousands of giant, curving, flat green steps, wrapping around the mountain like massive staircases climbing directly into the heavens. These are the legendary emerald green rice terraces of northern Vietnam. Welcome to the wild vertical frontier of Sapa and Ha Giang. For the thousands of foreign tourists who ride loud, heavy metal motorcycles up the winding, dangerous mountain roads, this landscape is a beautiful painting. They stand on the edge of the paved road, holding expensive digital cameras, taking photographs of the glowing green and golden yellow valleys. But for the indigenous ethnic tribes who actually live here, the Hmong, the Dao, and the Tay people, this breathtaking landscape is not a photograph. It is a brutal, daily war of physical endurance. To understand how human beings survive in a landscape where there is absolutely no flat land, you must look at the dark brown mud beneath their feet. Generations ago, when these tribes migrated into these remote, freezing mountains, they faced a terrifying problem. They needed to grow rice to survive, but you cannot grow rice on a vertical rock wall. Rice needs flat ground, and it needs to be completely submerged in deep, standing water. So, what do you do when the mountain gives you no flat land? You build it yourself. Using only primitive hand tools, heavy iron pickaxes, and simple wooden shovels, the local men and women began to physically carve the mountain. They dug into the steep dirt, creating flat, narrow shelves. They built strong, thick walls of brown mud to hold the cold mountain spring water inside each level. They did this over and over and over again for hundreds of years. Today, maintaining these massive flooded green staircases requires an unimaginable physical labor. Because the terraced fields are so incredibly steep and narrow, it is completely impossible to bring a modern heavy metal tractor or a diesel farming machine up the mountain. Everything here must be done as using pure, raw animal and human muscle. If you wake up before dawn, when the freezing white mist is still clinging to the dark green pine trees, you will see the true engine of the mountain economy. A rugged, sun-tanned local farmer, wearing heavy black rubber boots, walks into the freezing deep brown mud. He is leading a massive, giant black water buffalo by a thick hemp rope. The water buffalo is an absolute beast. It weighs over 1,000 pounds. It has massive, sweeping, dark horns and incredibly thick, tough gray skin. The farmer attaches a heavy, hand-carved wooden plow to the back of the giant animal. For 10 agonizing hours under the hot, beating yellow sun, the farmer wades knee-deep through the thick, heavy brown mud. The giant black buffalo pulls the wooden plow, turning over the wet dirt to prepare the field for the new green rice plants. The physical toll on the human body is horrific. The farmer's legs are covered in dark leeches from the muddy water. His spine aches from bending over constantly. He sweats heavily in the suffocating tropical humidity. When the planting season arrives, the entire village works together. You will see groups of naturally beautiful, young indigenous women stepping into the flooded, mirrored pools of water. And their clothing is an absolute explosion of vibrant, glowing color. In a world filled with dark green mountains and gray rocks, the Muong and Dao women wear thick, heavy traditional clothing that acts as a defiant celebration of life. They wear massive, heavy, bright red and glowing neon and pink headscarves. They wear thick cotton jackets dyed in deep, dark indigo blue. They spend months using sharp metal needles to hand-stitch incredibly complex cut geometric patterns using bright yellow, green, and pink threads. Around their necks, they wear massive, heavy, bright silver tribal necklaces and large silver earrings that clink and softly in the mountain wind. These young women bend over at the waist, taking tiny, bright green rice seedlings from woven bamboo baskets. With incredible speed and precision, they push the small green plants deep into the soft brown mud. They plant millions of individual green stalks entirely by hand. Months later, when the brutal monsoon rains end and the autumn season arrives, the mountains undergo a spectacular magical transformation. The entire turns into a glowing, blinding ocean of golden yellow. The rice is ready to be harvested. Again, the sharp metal sickles come out. The men and women cut the tall, heavy, golden rice stalks by hand. Watertight, they tie them into massive, heavy yellow bundles. They place these incredibly heavy loads into large, woven bamboo baskets, strapping the baskets to their foreheads and backs. They walk slowly, balancing carefully on the narrow, slippery mud walls of the terraces, carrying hundreds of pounds of golden rice up the steep, dizzying mountain trails. This rice is their absolute lifeline. It is stored in heavy wooden barns next to their homes. When the freezing, dark winter arrives and the towering mountain peaks are completely covered in white snow, the families retreat inside their simple wooden houses. The architecture is rustic and minimal. The floors are made of packed dirt. The walls are made of thick wooden planks. In the center of the dark room, a bright, roaring orange wood fire burns constantly. The women use massive, heavy black iron pots to boil the fresh water. They cook enormous, steaming bowls of sticky white rice. They serve it with fresh green mountain vegetables, spicy red chili peppers, and thick cuts of roasted pork. The men sit around the warm orange fire, pouring hot, burning, clear rice wine from plastic bottles into small glassed cups. They drink, they laugh, and they tell ancient stories while the freezing mountain wind howls through the wooden cracks of the house. This intense community bond is forged by survival, because out here, the environment can turn deadly in a matter of minutes. During the summer monsoon season, massive, heavy, dark storm clouds crash into the mountain peaks. They drop unbelievable, violent amounts of heavy rain. The small, quiet mountain streams instantly turn into roaring, explosive, violent brown rivers. Massive, terrifying landslides frequently occur. Millions of tons of wet brown mud and giant gray rocks slide down the steep cliffs without warning, completely burying the narrow dirt roads, destroying the wooden houses, and sometimes taking human lives. To live in these mountains is to accept the extreme, unpredictable violence of the earth. But today, a new, entirely different kind of storm has hit these remote northern villages. The storm of the modern world. In the last 10 years, the secret of these beautiful green mountains has been exposed to the entire globe. Now the narrow, winding dirt roads are constantly filled with loud, rumbling diesel tour buses and thousands of foreign backpackers. The local indigenous people who have farmed the deep mud for centuries are adapting rapidly to this new economy. Many local women speaking incredibly fluent English that they learned simply by talking to some tourists now work as trekking guides. They lead wealthy foreigners on long, exhausting hikes up the steep green trails, wearing their bright pink traditional clothing and carrying modern smartphones. They sell beautiful, hand-woven, colorful blankets and shiny silver bracelets to the tourists in the busy, loud local markets. This new influx of foreign money has brought incredible changes. Many small wooden houses now have bright blue solar panels on the roof. You will see young boys wearing traditional blue clothing, but driving fast, modern, loud Japanese motorcycles across the dangerous dirt mountain passes. And for the young generation, the pull of the distant cities is incredibly strong. A young teenager sitting on a green hill looking at a glowing, bright digital screen can instantly see the massive modern concrete towers of Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. They see fast internet, massive shopping malls, and bright neon lights. They see a life that does not require standing knee-deep in freezing brown mud behind a heavy water buffalo. Many of these young people are packing their bags. They leave the quiet, misty mountains to find high jobs in the loud, polluted, modern factories of the lowlands. As the youth leave the villages, a quiet anxiety echoes across the green terraces. Who will fix the broken mud walls when the heavy rain washes them away? Who will guide the giant black water buffalo through the deep valleys? Will these spectacular, ancient stairs to heaven eventually be abandoned, overgrown by wild green jungle vines? It is a painful, heavy question, but when you stand on the very edge of a deep valley at sunset, when the sky turns a brilliant, violent shade of orange and purple, reflecting perfectly in thousands of flooded, mirror-like pools of water carved into the cliff. When you see a young mother carrying a heavy bamboo basket full of golden rice, smiling brightly as she walks home to a warm fire, you realize the unstoppable, profound power of the human spirit. These indigenous tribes did not conquer the mountain by blowing it up with dynamite or paving it with gray concrete. They conquered it with patience. They conquered it with absolute respect for the earth. They looked at a massive, terrifying vertical stone wall, and they carved a masterpiece. The modern world is loud, and the concrete cities are pulling the children away. But as long as the heavy white fog rolls over the jagged gray peaks, and the giant black buffalo stands in the deep brown mud, the soul of the high mountains remains completely, wildly alive.